All right, everybody, good morning and welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel. In the shop again today. Appreciate everybody watching our video about me driving the Danger Ranger 9000. All in all, it was a pretty awesome event. Had a great time driving the truck, kind of standing in for George when he couldn't make it. All right, so right off the bat, gonna go ahead and remind you guys to subscribe. Check your subscriptions. YouTube's still doing that thing where they're unsubscribing people randomly, or some of us are unsubscribing randomly and we don't know we're doing it. I did it one time when I was on my phone, and I think I bumped the subscribe button while I was watching a video on another channel, and it unsubscribed me. So maybe that's what's happened to everybody that accidentally gets unsubscribed. I don't know. Also, remind you to go to winwithksr.com. We've got some new colored hats on there. This is the dark gray. We got a lighter gray, and we also have our new Give Me All the Data t-shirt, which you can see a picture of right there. Hope you guys like that one. We've been selling quite a few of them. Also have some long sleeve orange KSR shop shirts. Kind of thought it'd be neat to do kind of a limited run on some different colored shirts. We may do some more as winter gets here, maybe some reds and some greens. We'll see. But today, as you can see by the thumbnail, we're going to be working on Mullet again. Needs some repair work. Right now the transmission is not functioning, and I've got to fix my turbo drains that keep leaking. It is what it is. They're leaking. I don't know why. I made them out of something nice and thick. So for whatever reason, they're not holding a gasket very well. I've used silicone. Last time it was here, I made soft copper gaskets for it. Still leaking. So we're gonna try something a little bit different this time. Motion Raceworks may be coming out with a solution to our problem, but it's not here now. So I'm gonna have to fab something, which I'm cool with. Just takes a little bit longer to fab it versus buying something that's already available off the shelf. But we got a bunch of other stuff going on here in the shop. Got Jimmy's car in for subframe connectors, anti-roll bar install, the tubular front mount, and what else have we got to do? Oh, measure for a drive shaft. Let's see, Jimmy's got him a pretty serious Turbo 400 up in there. So our subframe connectors will also include a drive shaft cross member, which we'll show on another video. Subframe connectors are going to go all the way up to here, also tie out here to the bottom side of the cage. The Catfish Camaro is getting closer and closer. The wastegate pipes are fit, but I haven't cut the holes and welded them yet. Just been busy doing some other stuff. And I think we're gonna make some coil connectors because that's just ugly. So CJ's been working on cutting and bending us up a fuel cell, and that is one half of it. Let me see the other part of it there. And all of we're gonna have 2 fuel pumps inside of it. Originally I was gonna buy one of the Aeromotive drop-in brushless pumps. Can't get them, at least the one I wanted. And I tried all the suppliers that I deal with. All this backlog of everything, all the shipping stuff. I don't know. Not a fan of what's going on right now, but we're gonna do our best and make something with the parts that we can get. So what we're doing here is that box is gonna sit right in here, obviously below the hood line. It'll be above the subframe, so no matter how much wheelie the car does, it won't contact the ground. But the nice thing about building all the pumps and everything in the tank, it's literally a line out of the top to the fuel filter inlet, one line back from the regulator, and that is the entire fuel system, which I think is awesome. Nice and simple, it's compact, and we're using 2 of the TI Automotive, I believe these are the 490 liter per hour pumps. So Richard plans to stay on gasoline, just a race fuel, so should have plenty of fuel available with that. Probably won't be enough for E85, but we're looking for, you know, 1200-ish eventually. The goal initially is to try and make like 800-ish to the tire with the stock bottom end 5.3. We got to get that one going pretty quick here. We have a race next weekend, but do some more videos on that here in the near future. Also got Sean's car, work going on it. Travis has been working on an aluminum core support. We've been kind of tag teaming it together on how to fit this, seal off the front. And there's also going to be a box here that holds an air filter. So this will be removable. Air filter, the air filter will be in a box here. That box will come down and go to the inlet of the turbo. So, you know, kind of right through the grill hole there. And the idea there is when you're racing, you take the filters out and you get ram air right from the grill right into the turbo. Might be worth some more power. Not that we've even come close to maxing this thing out yet, but Sean's gonna get his first chance behind the wheel in it this Friday night at Bradenton. We also have a crank trigger to install that's going to fix our crankshaft sensor problem that we had up in Kentucky. But lots of progress going on that. I don't know if I showed the rear bumper, but the rear bumper and the parachute are mounted. Got the big spring launcher, and we went ahead and spaced it back because eventually Sean's going to do a wing on the car. Kind of didn't decide what exactly we were going to do there. But anyways, it's time for us to go get Mullet out of the trailer and get to work on it. All right, well, since Mullet's been here, it seems like we finally turned the corner on getting the car to go down the track, which has been exciting. Kind of started maybe getting the handle of it at the last pass at FL2K, and then they took it out and broke the input shaft again at the next test day. I told him it was gonna, because I had upgraded the input shaft in the primary transmission that started slipping the band. And I said, y'all need to swap the pump in the input shaft because it's gonna break. But they still did it anyway. But that's okay. Race cars break. Kind of a bummer because the car was probably on a high 730 rip, which would have been its new best again. But now I get to be down there when we go fast with it. Hopefully this Friday. They were trying to fix that transmission. I'm wondering if I have to. I may have to pop this transmission out in here and put the upgraded input shaft and pump into this trans, which it's Tuesday now, so we got some work to do. But another couple of things we did, we had built a spare set of shocks that we got from AFCO Racing, custom valve just like the shocks that are on the front now, slightly heavier spring rate. So I believe these are 450s. It's been a couple weeks since we put them together, but pretty sure these are 450s. The springs that are on the car now are 400s. So having the stiffer spring actually slows the reaction of the shock down a little bit. So it's like you get a larger window of your shock, which at FL2K, we felt like the front end was kind of coming up pretty quick, even though the shocks were nearly fully tight on the extension. And they loosened them back up for the initial testing. But you guys see now what's happening is the car is driving up into a wheelie. So what we want is a long, slow, controlled extension of the front shock so that while the front is lifting up, we can put all that power into it and make the car accelerate hard. One of the things that I prefer to do with cars that I set up is run as much front extension travel as I can and control all of that front extension with the valving in the shock. Now you guys saw on Mullet, they had taken front travel out of this thing, and I didn't know they had done that. And we were struggling, put the front travel back in it, and the car starts going down the track again. It is what it is. I can't be there all the time with the car to help with it, but guys like Ty and Nate, they know a lot too, and we can all work together to make the car work. So we're all part of the car going faster, and it's a good time for everybody. But while the car's here this time, aside from getting the transmission in it, we are also going to upgrade to some big boy 550 pound-per-hour injectors on the race side of the fuel system. So the issue with these, and it's not an issue, it's just a thing that we've got to work around, these are taller than the injectors that we have in the intake manifold. So when we originally built this car, we chose to put the race system under the intake manifold. My idea with that was pretty much when you're racing, it's wide open, there's just fuel blasting everywhere in there, and you want as much time as possible to get the fuel to atomize. Well, for street driving, I made the decision to keep the street injectors on the outside of the manifold because those are easier to access. I thought it was actually the better location for street driving, a little bit closer to the valve there. So now the problem we are going to have, that we are going to work around, is the injectors under the intake manifold can only be the short ones that are in there. We cannot put a tall injector in there because there's only 1/8 of an inch between the fuel rails because the injectors back up to each other. So with our dual plugs here, all I'm going to do is wipe the writing off of that, plug that into there, and then we are going to replumb the street system down to the race system. Well, what used to be the race system. And it's going to get a little busy in there. I'm just going to take the intake off completely so that we can take that custom U that I made and flip it to the front of the manifold, see if we can access the hoses in the back. And I'm hoping we can just take the ones that are hooked up to the rails, put them down on that, and that system's done. Now on the front here, you can see my fuel filter is hooked directly to the fuel rail on the passenger side of the engine. So what I'm going to end up doing is trying to hook it up here on like an angled coupler, and then we'll make a little bracket to catch it so that it's, with it being on the angled coupler, it's got leverage to swing and possibly loosen itself. So I don't want to have to deal with that. But we've got some replumbing to do. And I borrowed / stole the crimper back from Cletus so that we can make all the custom fuel lines again. I've got to make a new injector harness for the race system because it's a different injector plug. So we'll pop that harness off and just put that all in a box for him somewhere. He'll have a spare set of injectors. And the nice thing about just taking the outside injectors off, those have only had pump gas in them, so I don't have to worry about flushing them like we would if we took the inside injectors off, because E85, when it sits for a long time, can make injectors stick. But we don't have that problem because they're going to get flushed when we make the street system the under the intake manifold system, and then they'll be the street injectors. So we are also going to take off the water lines for the intercooler, because now that we're on alcohol, the higher air inlet temps that we were seeing that had me being really conservative with the ignition timing on the car, it's not as big of a problem or as big of a concern when you're running on alcohol fuel. Alcohol just doesn't care. I mean, it does to an extent, but it's a whole lot more forgiving in some ways than racing fuel. Even the best racing fuel, or even racing ethanol. But we're gonna make that switch. You can see we've got a little bit of oil mist on the windshield. Sad panda. And that's got to do with my setup on the oil drain / turbo mounts. Like I said earlier, I think I've got something that's gonna fix that. But it's gonna take a little bit of work. I'm gonna have to fabricate something custom, but that's what I'm gonna do. But anyways, it's time for me to get to work. Got a lot of little things to do to this thing to get it ready to be back in the trailer first thing Friday morning, so I can sail down there to Bradenton and we can go racing. Let's get to work. That was a lot like work. But you can see we've got everything off. Went ahead and just snatched the turbos. You can see they got a little bit of oil on them, which is not cool. Even though I had bought some dead soft copper and we actually custom made these gaskets. You can see where it squeezed up in around the bolt holes. So what I am going to do is I'm going to remake this little flange right here, and I'm gonna have an O-ring groove in it. Hopefully third time's a charm. When I first put the car together, I used silicone, that didn't work. Used copper gaskets, that didn't work. Actually, it worked for a little bit. Like it was sealed. I let it run for 30 minutes here one day after I put the copper gaskets on it. It's perfect. Then it wasn't. So, hopefully this O-ring deal, it's kind of like the Motion Raceworks pre-made flanges that they sell that bolt to the turbo and have the AN fitting right on the bottom of it. Well, the way our mount is, you know, this is part of the chassis basically, where it bolts down here with a couple of bolts. You can see my bolts there. And I think probably what's happening is all this stuff is expanding and growing and moving, and you know, it's tied together here, it's tied together on the charge pipe, it's tied together on the inlet, and these are stainless, that's aluminum. So my thought is things are squirming a little bit, so the O-ring seal, I believe, is going to fix it. But I've got to make them, and the next video I'll show you how I do that. The material's coming in tomorrow. I've got O-rings already over in my stash of parts, but I'm gonna have to get on the lathe and cut an O-ring groove and a flat piece of steel. So got a little trickery for that, but that'll be tomorrow's video. But to show you what I'm talking about with why we have to move the race system to the outer rails, it's right there. There is zero room for taller injectors. There's our original injectors, Fuel Injector Clinic 2150s. Had those on the inside and the outside. But these big bad boys, 550 pounds per hour, but you can see they are substantially taller. So probably between the O-ring, that's 1 1/8 inches, if I had to guess. So we can't put them there because there's just no room. And that's maybe 3/16 of an inch. So my thought is I'm going to take my little custom 180 that we made, see where it ended up, and we're going to take that, put it over here, and then we'll hook up the street fuel lines to the bottom. This now becomes the street injector plug, so we'll have to wipe that off. And then we will also move this fuel filter to the main fuel system, and I have to remake the lines that run down to, remake the line probably from that hooked up here, although I might be able to just, oh no, that's a non-swivel. Shoot. Okay, so that's not gonna work. May have to just cut a little bit of that, reclock it, recrimp it. More on that tomorrow. But hopefully you can see what we got going on. Frankenstein sent us taller brackets to replace these, which is going to move the bolt pattern all the way up to there. Reuse the same fuel rails. And then we'll be going back together with this thing. The guys down at McFarland Racing, Cleater Shop, they got the parts in today for the transmission, so the new plan is going to get everything I need to get done here, and then push it back in the trailer, take it down there, put the transmission in down at the Freedom Factory shop on Friday, and then we're going to try and go racing that night. So that's going to wrap up this video. Please subscribe if you haven't. I know I said at the beginning of the video, but we appreciate all that. The growth lately has been awesome. Want to keep that momentum going. See if we can get more and more people involved in this thing and keep growing the channel. It's just awesome what you guys have helped us do so far. But thanks again for watching and subscribing. I'll see you guys next time.